Let's talk about Booleans. Booleans are special modeling objects used to cut out of other 3D surfaces. I'm going to make one really quick to show you an example. I'm going to create a cube and I'm going to create a sphere. I'll move the sphere out and I'm going to go to my special modelings tab and use what's called a boodle, which is short for Boolean. Now there's a process with the Boolean that you'll find out wherever you drag in first is going to be the object or the shape that's cutting out of the final surface, and then the second object is going to be the object getting cut out or cut away from. So I'm going to have the cube cut off half of the sphere. So I'm going to drag the cube in first and I'm going to drag the sphere in second. Okay, you see now nothing really happens because it's far away, but if I take my cube and drag it over, you see now automatically half of the sphere is starting to disappear. Okay, and I can actually make it all disappear as it goes through. Okay, so it's very important that the A object is the object that's going to cut, and the B object is the object that is getting cut. Now, if I go ahead and flip this, okay, you see that now I have the cube and I have a sphere here, and you notice that the sphere is going to cut a hole inside of the cube. Okay, now I can go in at any time and I can scale this and make the cutout bigger, because right now it's still two objects. We haven't grouped it together. We haven't connected the object or welded to make it into one mesh. It's still two objects that we're working with. So that's the simple process of using a Boolean to cut out shapes. Let me give you a more creative example here. And I'm going to go in and make a car. And I just want to do a quick frame of a car. And this is the body frame here. And I'm going to take 2 cylinders to make the tires. Now, the good thing about when you're using a Boolean is that you can duplicate the cutout shape and use it as an actual object that you're cutting out from. Say, for example, I want to cut out tire holes or areas. I can use the same set of cylinders for the actual tires itself. Just copy it and hide it until after the Boolean process is done. So I'm going to scale this out, because you always want not exactly enough, but you want the cutout object to really hang out outside of the mesh that's being cut. And line it up here, and then I'm going to just go in and duplicate this. So that's my duplicate. Hold down my control key. Alright, so hold down my shift and do a group object. Okay, now we have our two objects. I'm going to call this cutout for now. And I'm going to create a Boolean object, and I'm going to drag the cutout in first because that's the objects we're cutting from, and then next I'm going to drag the cube, and you see automatically now the wheel holes are actually cut. Now I can go in and I can change the size of these. I can scale them up or whatever to make the cut bigger. You know, I can still alter this together. So I'm going to show you a couple of things here because I saw some things and you really need to take care of this. First of all, you notice that now when we cut, we have these triangles here. We want to get rid of the triangles, so I'm going to select the Boolean, and I want to say high quality, which is checked. I want to say create a single object. Okay, so that will actually group things together. Hide new edges. We don't really need to see those triangles right now. We want to keep everything clean. I guess you want to go in with the polygon process and cut out, add in edges, pull out faces to make this a more detailed car. You want to create Fong, brace, and intersection. Fong is pretty much just a shading information to make it smooth. So around here we want to see this smooth and not jagged. Okay, so that's what that check actually does. We don't have to worry about select intersections because we're not working with anything to intersect yet. That's if we change the Boolean type. Right now you see at default is that A subtracting B. We can say A union B, and that groups the two together. We can say A intersect B, and you see what happens is that a couple things happen. It cuts out the shape of the body around the actual object itself. Okay, so that's reverse, and A without B. A without B gives us a more hollow feeling. So say if you do want an inside shell, you don't want to see any of the cutout area, which is this right here. What you would do is go in and say A without B, and it will hollow out the inside of the cube as well as cut out the spaces. So just be aware of that extra step if you want to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to go back and say A subtracting B, and that's what we want here. So this just gives you a quick uses of using the Boolean tool. I mean, the sky's the limit. You can use more than one. You can always kind of double things together. Like right now, here's an object here. I can go in, create another cube, and I'm going to rotate this a little bit to have like a little chop at the top. Let me turn my angle here. I'm going to cut a little wedge at the top here, and I can go in and create another boodle and drag in the cube and in that boodle, and you see I can cut out the top. Now we have kind of an opening here. And again, you got to go in, make sure you get rid of the objects and the edges and stuff like that. So every time you do that, make sure you always go and check the box and the object to make sure you have clean geometry. That's the key. Without clean geometry, you really can't work with anything, and you have a problem working with it in the future as you work with the object. And I can move this out here, and you see I can break this out into different shapes. So this is just how using the Boolean process of cutting out shapes. You'll find this very useful. If you hide the new edges, you'll keep your polygon count down. And you can see this is a very powerful tool to make some shapes without going in using points or edges and actually carving the shapes out. So you can just pretty much do a quick on the fly cut.